Digital Pool is the ultimate app for billiards enthusiasts, tournament directors, and league operators. Digital Pool enables world-class billiards events by using innovative technology to enhance and streamline the experience at every angle. Experience features like live scoring, text notifications, table assignments, real-time match updates, automatic reporting the Fargo rating, player stats and profiles, live streaming overlays, online player registration, and digital payment tracking. Enjoy all this and more by signing up for your free account. And for the true billiards enthusiasts, enjoy our premium subscriptions in partnership with poolbilliards.co to take your game to another level. All this and more at digitalpool.com.
This episode is brought to you by Integrity Cues, BSN's trusted source of premium pool cues and accessories. Shop the entire inventory online now at integritycues.com.
Thanks for joining us today on Talkin English. My name's Del Sim, aka The Highlander. I'm joined by Josh Settersfield from BSN and Isaac Wooten from Digital Pool. Thanks for joining us today on Talkin English. We're going to be discussing all things tournament software and why we've seen the rise of this particular platform over the last couple of years. And hopefully we'll drive into the mind of Isaac and what he's been doing in the past, what he's going to do in the future, and then we'll see where we'll go from there. So Isaac, over to you. If you can just give us a brief intro about yourself and what Digital Pool is all about.
Sure, yeah. Hey everybody, I'm Isaac Wooten, the CEO, founder of Digital Pool. It originally started as just kind of a passion hobby project. I've been a pool player for many years, probably 20 years, played in different leagues over the years. I was a team captain, like all that kind of stuff. Went to Vegas, did the whole thing. So I got hooked on pool, probably in my 20s, and just kind of carried on through my later years. And having a background in technology, being part of Google, other startups, I learned how to build software, design products, things like that. And so one day I was like, I can go to the bowling alley and everything's automated and I don't have to do anything, and it keeps score and makes it super easy, and I can just focus on the game. And I'd love if pool was more like that, right? Especially tournaments. I play in tournaments and I have to sit there for 8 hours and wonder if I'm gonna get forfeited if I leave, and I gotta go to the bathroom, and then they call my match, and man. So I think that got my wheels turning, and I was like, let me see if I can build something, just like a prototype or something, and see what comes out of it. I didn't really have any big intentions at that point. But yeah, I ended up working with a good friend of mine out here, Doc Reyes, who's now one of the biggest US APL league operators in the nation. And he ran a league out here called the Dallas 8-Ball League for many years and ran many tournaments and still does. He's kind of a pinnacle in our pool world here in Dallas and actually all of Texas. So I worked closely with him just before COVID hit for about 6 months, sitting with him on a weekly basis, monthly basis, just learning everything about running tournaments from his point of view, since he had done it for so long. He was such an expert. And so I just, sucked out all the information I could get from him and sat there and wrote code, and him and I collaborated until we had a working prototype. So we had an MVP, launched the MVP at the pool hall, and at the point where he could ditch his paper bracket and switch over to my thing, it was like, okay, now we're getting somewhere, right?
What a moment that was.
Oh yeah, it was definitely a milestone for sure, and didn't come without its difficulties. Can't tell you when we did our first 128 player tournament, and everything froze, and the bracket got screwed up, and I had to go back and fix it, and players are waiting, and I'm like, oh my god, sweating, and everybody's huddling around looking at me typing, and I'm just like, okay guys, give me a little space here. But we got it all working, and now a couple years later, you're running 1,500, 2,000 tournaments a month, and I don't even really know all of them they're running. It just runs itself pretty much now. But you got to start somewhere, and it takes a long time to iterate and launch and refine. I think a lot of it's just been getting constant feedback from the public and the players and the room owners, league operators, directors, like all the people involved in the pool world have given feedback in some fashion, and that's made its way like into the product.
So let me just ask you this. You mentioned Google there. How much of this concept was evolved while you were still working at Google?
Oh, all of it. I mean, I've been at Google for almost 10 years in total now. So it definitely came to mind while I was there. And, that's given me the ability to kind of, get up to speed in a lot of new technology, things that Google Cloud has developed. I've been able to kind of be my own beta tester for the products I work on at my day job and funnel it all back into this project. And so that's been really nice. And I have a lot to thank Google for in this whole process. And I don't think it would have gotten this far without them.
So what point did you think, okay, I'm working for Google. I would love to be my own boss. Where's that kind of entrepreneurial spirit come from? And did that come from working at Google and seeing other products thrive?
No, I think that seed was planted way before Google, actually. I mean, I've been in the startup world for probably 10 years before Google. Started a couple of my own things before, been involved in other startups. Some failed, some exited. Haven't had any life-changing type exits, but basically went through all of it as a startup, entrepreneur. And I think that really put the bug to do my own thing at some point. And there's tons of ideas you can pursue, but for me, it was important that it was something that I would enjoy doing, even if I wasn't making money from it. If it was just a hobby and something I loved, that was what I would want to invest my time in, because it doesn't feel like you're working. You're doing it for fun, and whether I'm getting paid or not, I would spend my time doing that anyways.
So when did you pinpoint the time that, hey, I'm going to launch Digital Pool? And what was the competition at the time? What was already out there that you saw that you could do better?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think once we kind of got past that initial MVP milestone that I mentioned, where we were able to run one tournament, and then I was able to show it to someone else, and then they were able to run their own tournament. And I was like, wow, okay, well, why can't anyone? Maybe now everybody could run their own tournament. That'd be great, right? And I think at the time, you did have Challenge, you did have Q Score, right. And I think they're probably still I guess our main competitors, but that they have built great things. I mean, Challenge is widely used. They're more focused on the video game market, so not as much pool. I think Q Score is very focused on billiards. I mean, they're more popular in the UK. So I figured we've got an opportunity here in the United States. There's not really a lot of other companies doing what we're doing here, and it feels like pool is starting to come back. And I saw a good opportunity, and I was like, yeah, let's see where it goes. You never know until you try.
I think that's fantastic. And, I was so happy when Digital Pool came onto the scene, and I was like, wow, these guys are going to knock it out of the park. And, I had an affiliation with Google, so I was a little bit more kind of in tune with it. But what do you think you did that set yourself apart from the competition? What was your kind of unique selling point?
I think it just coming from a background of constant product development, iteration, listening to customer feedback, bringing that back into the product, refining. That endless loop and cycle keeps refining the product over time and makes it better and better. And, it's developed into something I never would have imagined. And there's so many features I never even thought of that people were like, hey, what about this? And what about that? And you're like, oh, that's a pretty good idea. Okay, let's put that in there and see if other people like it, right? And so I feel like just that in itself has differentiated us, and we've been able to add pretty unique features and things that no one else had. And I guess we just had the ability and kind of the passion to really make it work and look good, which is a little different from other products maybe. And then just, we really care about the players and the tournament directors, and we just listen to their feedback. And, customer service is also important. So we try to be as responsive as we can. And so I think all those things combined has kind of helped us maybe accelerate a little bit faster than some others.
And again, the game is focused on the large player base comes from the amateur side. So how much of that feedback actually came from the amateur players and tournament directors outside of maybe Matchroom or Predator?
Well, quite a bit, because I mean, most of the fields in these amateur tournaments are amateurs. Even the pro tournaments, you got a bunch of amateurs because they want to play the pros, right? They want to. It's the one sport that you can just put in your $50 entry fee and play Efren Reyes or whoever like is your idol in the pool world, and that's very unique. So lots of the feedback comes from those players, and they're like, hey, I love playing in these tournaments, but man, I wish I could go faster. I wish when I was going to play next, and can I leave the building and go get some food? Like, just these common questions are kind of the things that fueled stuff like, text messaging and live scoring and, extending that to live streaming and being able to watch from home, like your favorite match and all that kind of stuff.
I feel like some of those features that you guys have already implemented is proof of how well you're taking the player feedback and then implementing it into the product, because you hit each one of the player pain points so well. Like you basically go through what is the annoying experience of being in a pool tournament as the pool player, and then how do I solve all of that with software? And I feel like that has been the evolution that we've kind of watched digital pool take.
Oh, totally. And it's been interesting because, I mean, there are a lot of directors and players that are old school, and they're used to paper brackets, and they're used to just the old way of kind of being in a pool hall for hours and hours and flipping a coin and moving beads and all that stuff. And so trying to get them to like convert into this kind of new digital world of pool is a challenge in some cases. And it might take a little while to get them to adapt. But I feel like the more and more we build into it and the more convenient we make it for them and just take all that complexity away and like streamline the whole process of running in a tournament, playing in a tournament, then they really get to enjoy the game that they love, right? That's the whole reason they're there.
Yeah.
What's been the greatest addition for you that you didn't think of originally that is now like you couldn't do without it?
As far as features go, or
features, yeah.
I mean, the text messaging, to be honest, like I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, it's a convenient thing. Like I can get a message on my phone and I link and I can score my match and great. Okay. I'll know where to go. Right. Like that was my kind of thought in the beginning, but then seeing over time, like how much time it can actually save in aggregate, being able to, let everyone know where to go when. Once it's done, they submit their score. There's no empty tables. There's no waiting. The tournament director can immediately assign a table, or now it can auto-assign. There's automation that we're doing to make it even smoother. But that alone, like, was one thing that kind of surprised me. And more people were like, "Oh, like we love this feature, and it saved me so much time, and it's so convenient. And I can leave, and I can go get food or take a nap, and I don't have to worry about being forfeited." So that they appreciate that.
Do you know the one thing I love is that everybody has this smartphone now, right? So when you get the text message, the best thing I ever saw was when you click on it and you do the live scoring direct from the phone, and that populates straight into whoever's directing the tournament, and they can follow on and decide how long the match is taking. They can send a shot clock over if it's taking too long. And you get that accurate kind of feedback that you need as a tournament director.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, we haven't talked really about the fans yet, or like the spectators, but they're a really important piece of this whole puzzle too. And any of these big tournaments, you're going to have a bunch of people sitting around that aren't players, and they want to know what's going on the other side of the room, and they can't walk around back and forth all the time. And so if they have a way to just pull up their phone, or if there's a monitor nearby or something, they can see all the matches going on with the scores. I mean, they pretty much have the full arena-like experience that you would with any other pro sport.
Yeah, it's been a big game changer for me, both as a fan and a player. Just having those additional features, because, like you say, you don't always want to stay in the room. You might want to go get some fresh air. You might want to take a walk. You might want to go, to the deli down the street if there's no food on. That type of thing. So having that text message feature is absolutely huge. Now, I have it up in the background here, and I've noticed, or I say me and Josh have noticed, that you're now going to a premium feature. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, going back to the conversation earlier about iterating to the point where we feel like we have a well-refined product and we've kind of addressed a lot of those big pain points and user needs. I mean, that has caused a lot of attention and growth from the community, and now we have a lot more users and there's a lot more tournaments, and that's a good problem to have. And it also puts a lot of strain on servers and infrastructure, and millions of text messages being sent that we have to pay for whether they're delivered or not. So it's just, the reality of like, okay, costs are going up, there's more usage, like it feels like the right time, people are getting value from it, maybe they're willing to pay for it a little bit, and I think we have some ambitious goals, and we've sort of hit this point in our growth where we need a bigger team. We have much bigger ideas that are going to require more capital or, recurring revenue to make everything even faster. And we're building a mobile app, and like there's all kinds of stuff that we want to do, but with our current setup, it's just like we've hit this point where we kind of have to go down that path.
Did you always plan on digital pool being this complete package to service the entire pool industry, or did it really just kind of branch from the original place of, man, I'm a player and I'm in these leagues, and like you made the bowling alley analogy earlier, so was it like really based from the player perspective and you just recognized that it could grow and be this kind of one-stop shop to service the entire pool industry?
Yeah, I didn't have that initial vision of it, but originally I wanted to go down the league path because I'm like, the leagues are so big, and like, how hard can it be to build your own league?
Right.
Let's try that. But then hit a bunch of walls there because, turns out pool rooms already have leagues running 7 days a week, and trying to get your own little startup league in there is like next to impossible. And then COVID hit as well. And so you're like, okay, well, people can't even go to the pool hall anymore. So how are we going to make that work? Right. So then it was like, well, let's look at tournaments. What's going on over there? And it didn't seem like there was as much competition or friction. So we kind of went down that path and just said, let's start there and, see where it grows from that point. We always knew we might be able to like pivot back later, look into these other areas. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it evolved. And then over time, we're like, oh, well, we've actually got something that can benefit a lot of different people in the pool world, not just players or tournament directors, but live streamers. And so that was one area that I wasn't really anticipating. I didn't know too much about at the time, but after building like a little live scoreboard that you can put in your live stream, like people were like, oh my God, like, how do I use that? Like, I don't have to keep my own score for the live stream. I can just like commentate and I don't have to do anything. Like, that's amazing. How do I use that? So those little pieces of feedback and like trigger moments are like, oh, there's something there. Like, let's keep digging in that area.
How long did it take you guys to go from the initial scope of what your vision was to the product that we have today? When did you actually found and launch Digital Pool?
We launched January of 2021 and started in 2020, early 2020. So yeah, basically just like the year before COVID hit, pretty much. I was working with Doc, like I mentioned earlier, every week, like at least once a month, figuring this thing out. And then, COVID obviously kind of put a damper on things for a little bit, but it allowed me to spend more time kind of refining that initial MVP and filling all the goals and holes and fixing bugs and getting it to the point where, someone else could send it to their friend and then they could use it themselves. And so that created kind of like a network effect. And by the time 2022 hit, we had 100 people using it to make tournaments. And I'm like, oh, wow, okay, this is cool, and it's just grown from there. And so clearly it's like helping solve a problem. And I feel like it's helping grow the industry because more people can run events much easier. And there's a lot of people who are like, I've never ran a tournament before, but because of your software, I can now run 5 tournaments at once and I don't have to worry about anything. And, it's made me want to run as many as I can because the players love it. And, they own a room or they just, love being in that environment and running tournaments. So for them, it's like helped accelerate their ability to run tournaments.
There's not a single place in my city that's not having a local tournament that isn't being ran by Digital Pool right now already, by the way. I just wanted to insert that real quick. Sorry, Del.
It's you make a great point. And my number one gripe with tournament play is time. Time management, or even, bigger still, time management. We all know what the average time is for a 9-ball match or a 10-ball match or an 8-ball match. And I think that being pre-programmed, and tested out by the players, I always find when I go, now I kind of pick and choose. I'm like, okay, do I want to go to a tournament that's using paper versus digital pool? Do I want, I often just find, that I'm selective now over where I'm going to go. I even like did you have a feature, am I just imagining it, but it was like a 30-second shot clock you could incorporate into it?
Oh yeah, there is a shot clock, and there's match clocks now as well. And
wow.
So yeah, we're trying to do a lot more with like time management and helping people, set a shot clock if they want, or like set a 2-hour time limit for a match if they want, things like that.
Perfect. Wow.
What other features are you the most excited about? I mean, that we talked about the text message being the most shocking one, but which one were you which was your idea that you were the most excited about?
Well, there's some new stuff they're working on. So AI is like the latest craze permeating everything, and we're no strangers to that. So I've been doing some experiments with some AI features, and basically implemented a couple things now where it can, like, with pretty good accuracy, tell you when you're going to play next, given all the variables around average match times and type of game, type of race, table size, like skill levels. All that stuff gets fed into the LLM, and then it's able to give me back a pretty reasonable estimate of like when an individual player is going to play next, as well as how long the tournament will take to finish. So I feel like that's like it helps answer two big questions, from the tournament director side, like how long is this thing going to take to run given how everything's going right now? And as a player, can I leave for an hour and come back even without the text message? Like, give me some accurate time estimate of when I'm going to play next.
Yeah, I'm just looking at I'm looking at this, right, and I'm on your events page on the website here. Let me just see if I can zoom that in for you a little bit more. So this is the Buffalo's Pro Classic. There is the Pro 1 Pocket and the Open 9 Ball. How do they get on the homepage here? Is this something that they have to pay for? Is it a premium selection or?
No, that events page, I mean, it's kind of different from the tournaments page, but it allows you to basically group multiple types of brackets and tournaments together into one. And it's all just displayed based on most recently updated. So we try to like filter all the recent stuff to the top. Same with the tournaments page. But the events are slightly different because you can like group multiple kinds of brackets into one event.
And I love this. I'm just giving you a kind of real-time demo. I also was a little bit curious about who's winning the 1 Pocket right now. Did you see the Calcutta on that, by the way? The Calcutta was
318,000 new record.
Oh my
wild.
God. Is there? I mean, that could be a question. Just thinking about organically. Is there a space for you maybe to do an online Calcutta with it being so big in the Americas?
Possibly. I mean, it is a big gray area legally. Just anything with Calcuttas, and I mean, if we don't like transact money on behalf of the players, betting and all that stuff, then I think we might be okay. But for now, I just decided, let's not go down that path, put ourselves at risk. Like, there's so many other things that we can do that will add value to the game and help grow the sport. Or I think, Auction Pro, and like there's some other sites that have pretty well solved the online Calcutta situation. So, if anything, maybe we can do an integration with them. Like, that's kind of one area we're branching out into, is sort of forming like a network of partnerships with other startups and companies within the industry, like poolbilliards.co, if you're familiar with them.
Yeah.
PlayKey, who's doing some amazing things with AI and tracking ball trajectories and auto scoring based on videos and automatic replays. Like, there's some really cool stuff happening, and we're working closely with those companies to like integrate deeply, so together we can provide even more value for everyone.
No, I love it, and the fact that your background, obviously being a software engineer, I mean, how difficult is it to get all of these things in one? Because we obviously have the live score here, we have the time the match started, we've got the progress in the match, we've got the timer in there, it's even got a percentage, and then obviously the click to the live stream. I don't think I have the live stream up, obviously, but
yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work, obviously, a lot of engineering on the back end. Trying to make it as real time as possible. I mean, I don't know. When we first started, we had, a small database And now we've got, hundreds of tables and millions of match records. And I think we've submitted like 1.3 million matches to Fargo, for example. And, you compare it to other sports, like you need that real-time feedback. So I think early on that was something that I just absolutely had to have, was like everything needs to be as real-time as possible. It can't be, waiting for 10 seconds until the page updates. Like as soon as someone clicks the button to score, it needs to update like immediately.
Let's dive into that a bit more. When did you think, oh, okay, I'm going to start a partnership now and be the main kind of partner for Fargo Rate and, keeping score of these, very critical matches?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of stems, like I had a chance to meet Mike Page a few times, and I mean, he was, brilliant. Like, he used to be a professor of physics, and like, his background is very interesting. And so hearing his kind of journey to the pool world and like applying all of his background, I think that just made me like intrigued and interested to like work with him in some fashion and capacity. And then when I heard about Fargo Rate, I was like, that's a really great idea, because, building like a global rating system, especially for a game like pool, is very difficult. And there's so many different variables and facets. And like, how do you possibly make something that's fair and works for single play and match play and tournaments? And, he has the mind and capability to do that. And so I think that's kind of what interested me early on to get involved with Fargo. And so once they launched, it was still a couple of years after that we launched Digital Pool, but I had an early kind of relationship with them. So once we did launch, I was like, hey guys, like, here's what we're building. And I was like, hey, I love what you're doing with Fargo. How can we work together? And so they were like, oh yeah, like this looks pretty cool what you're doing. Here, we'll give you like an API key and you can go like pull in some player records and like see what you can come up with, right? And so I think the more that we implemented and showed them, they were like more and more impressed. And that's where they're like, yeah, keep going. Like what you're doing is great, and helps bring in more matches to Fargo. And, we started doing more pro events, I guess, at that point. And so that was something that they were really interested in, because they wanted to understand, not just from an amateur point of view with BCA and all the data they were getting there, but like from the pro point of view, like all that data coming from those pro events. And before that, I mean, they had to go out and scour the internet and get it themselves, and, take pictures of paper brackets and, all this stuff. And so I think we created this funnel of high quality information going straight into their system. And that really probably helped, establish their data set and make it more high quality over time.
So talk me through that process. So when the tournament's finished and the tournament director clicks, finish, do they have to upload, or do they just click submit?
No, it's kind of like a semi-automated process. So when they complete the tournament, then Fargo essentially goes through once a week and reviews all the latest tournaments. And then they're able to do their kind of analysis of the tournaments and make sure that all the data quality looks good and the player names are correct and scores. And then I created a button for them to just download like all the match data into a spreadsheet in the format that they want. And then they can just upload that straight into Fargo from there.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so it's become a real talking point, because the first question out of any pool player's mouth now is, oh, what's your Fargo?
Yeah,
it's kind of...
Exactly. They've definitely like done a great job, making that sort of global ranking system. And I know there's, it's kind of divided from the people who love Fargo and the people who don't love Fargo so much. But, I feel like as a sport, it's one of those key things that we need to kind of balance everything out across the world, right? And it may not be perfect yet, but it's really close. I mean, I've tracked it for so long, and like it is very accurate, and Mike's done a great job like fine-tuning it. So yeah, I mean, we're big fans of Fargo, and we'll keep feeding data into it as long as we can.
You're a pool fan, so I'm going to keep pushing on this one. But what do you think of these 600 and unders and 700 and unders and capping the events based on Fargo?
Oh, I know. Yeah, it's a mixed bag there too. I mean, I feel like enables the tournament directors to run a lot more events that can draw bigger crowds, and the people that are entering feel like they have a chance to win, where before, if you enter an open event and you're in the field, like, okay, well, my chances have diminished significantly because Del Sim is now in the tournament and I got to run up against him, and I'm just donating at this point, right? So at least like when it's capped, then okay, now I feel like it's more balanced. Everyone has a chance at that point. I feel like it does kind of alienate the better players a little bit, and there's less events for them to play in. But I feel like the split bracket format is interesting. Like that's something that never existed before, like 2 years from now that I was aware of, right? And so now you've got the ability for the better players and the lower players to play together and kind of be separated at the beginning, but then at the very end is when they kind of meet, right? And so it kind of caters to everyone, which is interesting.
So will Digital Pool generate what the race is? So if you've got, like you say, that split bracket and then they meet in the semi and the final, will it generate like a hot race, 9-5 if that's the case?
Yeah, if they're using like the Fargo kind of hot race charts, hot, medium, mild, it'll do all that. There is some interesting scoring where they've kind of augmented the Fargo races, and they have like 6+1 and 5+1, and I think that means like you're supposed to spot the other person a game if you're the same rating as them or something like that. So we haven't implemented that kind of unique, but it's great that they're trying to like make it even more fair. So.
Do you guys have plans on developing your own rating system over time with you getting this type of data? Like, I hope that's not too pointed of a question. Obviously, there's a lot of deep collaborations going on with Fargo, but it seems like with all of the other industry leaders that you're working with and the data that you're capturing, it seems like you would be positioned to create a unique rating that nobody else would be able to. Maybe it could just be a digital pool rating that could be a part of the Fargo rating. Have you guys thought about that?
Yeah, I don't think we have any intention of creating our own system that would like try to compete directly with Fargo, right. But certainly a rating system or some kind of rating that could like give more color to Fargo. Like Fargo tracks wins and losses, right? But there's so many other variables that it's not aware of, like table size and game format and location. And I mean, there's so many things, and we have all that data. So, I mean, one thing I've been kind of exploring is trying to like create a machine learning model that can take in all those variables and like kind of spit out a rating based on how well you play on a 9-foot table versus like a 7-foot table, or how well you play an 8-ball versus 9-ball. And some of that is just like analyzing past match history and data and doing like some heuristics, but with the power of machine learning now, right, and like these different kinds of models, it can actually kind of piece all that data together for you and spit out like a number, right? So I don't know if it's accurate yet, but the fact that it can take all that information in and try to analyze it and produce some sort of number that factors all those variables in, I think is something that's very achievable and could actually add a lot of value on top of Fargo. Like Fargo becomes the baseline. Yeah. And then you've got these other numbers that you can look at and be like, oh, actually, like they're way more effective in this game versus this game, or this table versus that table, or whatever it might be.
I think you have a great opportunity to expand on the factors that go into calculating what the rating is. And when you were talking earlier about tracking match length and time management, I was having alarm bells go off, and how that could also factor into a player's rating on how long are their average matches. And eventually I was doing things like in chess, how there's the shot clock. I know I've heard players talk about, if you're a fast player, it's commonly looked down on a slow player. You feel like the fast player is somehow better in some sort of way. And if you could track how much time an individual player has spent at the table versus the other player, that's a stat I hear players talk about and kind of have their own opinions about all the time. Can we look forward to that coming to Digital Pool? Is that a feature that we can, I don't know how I'm going to clean up that question. I'm swerving all over the road here, but how is that going to be implemented in Digital Pool in the future?
Yeah, I mean, we're able to track, match duration, average match length, break it down per player, per game. So we have, tons of information. It's just like, what do we do with that information? Yeah. And what's valuable to the player? Like, how do we present it in a way that's actually useful, and it's not just like, oh, is that actually real? Or like, it needs to be something that you can measure over time, and it's objective, And
it
if we can
could
get
fit
that
into the
point,
rating.
yeah, and then maybe it can become like another variable that factors into Fargo. So I mean, I could imagine a future where we develop this additional, I don't know, call it rating system, but like I don't know, additional like skill level features or capabilities of your game that could feed back into Fargo as additional like metadata. So you have the core Fargo system, but then you've got additional data plugging in there when it's available that can give you like an extended or deeper look into like a single player or a group of players, something like that.
Yeah.
I've been listening to all this and my wheels are churning. So I'm going to give you some real-time feedback, Isaac, right?
Okay.
How easy would it be as a player to basically purchase my data for the entire year? So if you want me to, again, I'm kind of looking at that screen and it's $10 a month, or I can pay a yearly fee for 20% off.
Mm-hmm.
Could I purchase all of that data that's been fed into Digital Pool, and then potentially I could also purchase a scouting report? So I'm going to enter a tournament and I want to look at the top 10 players, and I want to do a scouting report on what they put on and what their rates are, etc. Could I get that feedback almost like a baseball or Major League Baseball kind of stat?
Yeah, I mean, to answer the first question, you don't have to pay for it. You can just go in there and it's already available in your everyone's player profile. You have your full match history of every tournament and match you've ever played in that use Digital Pool, and that's all free. As far as the competitive analysis, that's definitely something we've thought about, and I think it could be interesting. A similar thing we're kind of working on now is like a post-tournament report for every player if you're signed up to that player plan. So it can basically like email you, or maybe we'll have a page dedicated in Digital Pool that's like, here's the breakdown of the entire tournament that you played in, all your opponents and your stats and average match times and all that kind of stuff. And I think over time, like that ties back into one of our partnerships with poolbilliards.co. So they built an amazing like practice platform, right? And I feel like as a player, there's this kind of competitive loop that you go through where you're practicing, you're doing drills, you're learning, you're putting a lot of time on the table by yourself to improve all these different skills, right? Especially you as a pro, like you have to nail those shots.
Whoa. Let's not spit the pro word out there. I'm a house amateur.
Oh, sorry. Okay. House amateur.
All right. I'm a house amateur. Thank you.
Accuracy matters.
Carry on, sorry.
Okay, politically correct. Yes, house amateur. All right, my mistake. Anyways, even every house amateur needs to practice at some point if you want to have a chance to beat a real pro, right?
Yes.
And so I feel like that's sort of an opportunity where we're going into now, where we're melding the practice part of the game with the competition part of the game. And there's this loop where you practice, and then you want to see the results of that practice. So you go enter a tournament, and then you're sort of more aware of what you've been practicing in that tournament, because the situations will come up, and you're like, oh, here's that situation, like here's that shot, like can I make it this time? I just made it 100 times in a row. Am I going to miss it or whatever?
Yeah.
But then if you can track some stats and like some specific things that you've been working on and look at that in the tournament aspect, then if your practice is actually benefiting or not. And then it'll also tell you like where there's other gaps. Like you're going to be like, oh, well, I did great there, but then I missed like the straight in shot from across the table, and I really need to work on my like full table stop shot or whatever, right? So then you go back to the practice part and you do more drills, and then you take it back. And so there's like this endless loop. And I feel like if we can build a more cohesive platform that helps tie those two things together, including casual play or like match play, like then you've got this full feedback loop to help you become a pro like as quickly as you want.
I've seen a lot of this, and I say a lot. I've seen a couple of things online right now where they have the Pool Billiards Co thing on the side.
Yeah.
Poolbilliards.co, and then sorry, my camera just started tracking me.
It was you did the sign.
Yeah, I shouldn't do that one. You know a bit about AI, Isaac.
Oh yeah, that was cool. That was cool. We do the thumbs up at work, and the little thumbs up icon floats up.
Oh god, yeah, I don't want to do that just yet. Let's do that one. But yeah, going back to the poolbilliards.co, I know it's been around a while, but is there an ability there to record yourself and do the drill as it's kind of and live stream it that way? Is that what you're talking about?
That's part of it. I mean, they don't have a ability built into their software to record. You can do that with your own equipment, but they built a great platform for basically like, I don't know, they have 2,500 different drills and diagrams, and then you can enter your scores and it'll give you like an average. So it'll calculate stats of like how, you know, good or bad you are at specific drills. And they have even full workout programs where there's multiple drills and it's teaching you all about banking or, you know, whatever aspect of the game you're interested in. And there is now like the other company, PlayKey, like potentially you could record yourself doing a drill and then upload it to PlayKey, and then they will send it back and tell you how many times you missed and show you exactly the angle of all the shots that you missed and broke them all out into individual highlight videos.
Wow. I never knew that existed. PlayKey, just playkey.com?
Yeah, play and then KII.com.
Oh, KII. Okay.
Yeah.
That got me thinking two things. One, I wonder if there's the potential to do a tournament where it'd be something kind of interesting where the tournament itself is actually competing drills from poolbilliard.co. And then the second thought there would be, this all kind of stuff from aim trainers from the esports world. They do that all the time. And then the second idea would be maybe there could be a digital pool rating for people's ability to accomplish that particular drill. Like you have your Fargo rating, which is how you actually compete in competition, but maybe you could have a digital pool practice rating. And this practice rating is coming from how you accomplish these drills. And I'll let you take over with your software engineer brain from there. So I did my part. You're welcome. These are all thoughts I'm sure you guys have already had, though, because as I'm telling you, or as I'm hearing you talk about all your collaborations, these are crumbs that are already all out there. So like, I'm just excited that this is what you guys are building, man.
Yeah. I mean, that feeds into it. I don't know if we thought of it like as a rating per se, like practice rating. That is interesting. Yes. But even just like having the ability to do these drills, and maybe there's a gamification element. Like, okay, you've now completed the stop shot drill, and you've done stop shots like all throughout the table, right? And then but he has like different levels. So maybe you complete the advanced drill program, and now you're considered like advanced in the eyes of the computer because you've completed all the most advanced drills that all the house amateurs have put together for you.
Great callback there.
That's going to stick. It's going to stick. The house amateur is going to stick. I'm starting a movement, Isaac. Tell Doc Reyes, tell Doc about it.
All right, all house amateurs are allowed in lower bracket.
You heard it here first, folks.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. What do you think defines a pro? And again, I ask people this question all the time, and I'm really, you're a smart chap.
It's a great question. I mean, part of me wants to say it's like pure ability. But if you go around and compete and travel in all these events and you're making like a pretty good living off of it, and it's at the point where you can say, I'm going to do this full time. I'm good enough where I can make a living off of this. Okay. I think that's probably the most well understood definition of a pro. Right. But I feel like ability, like there's tons of players who could be considered, and you're making like a pretty good living off of it. And it's at the point where you can say, I'm going to do this full time. I'm good enough where I can make a living off of this. Okay. I think that's probably the most well understood definition of a pro. Right. But I feel like ability, like there's tons of players who could be considered pros, but they don't really play that often. Like one of my friends from back in California, Brian Parks, amazing player, like won the, APA amateurs, I don't know, 5 or 10 times or something, like probably one of the 5 times. Yeah. Probably the most of any player. Right. And he's like, a dad, and he has a full-time job, and like, he's not flying around the world playing in these tournaments, but he plays at that level. Right. So I think there's some aspect of just pure ability that could put you in that category as a pro.
I agree. And I'll bring it back to the Fargo rate, because people are saying like 720 and under is not a pro, or so can you show that distinction that 720 is the absolute, like, hey, I'm now a talented, skilled player?
Well, it gets back into the nuance of the Fargo rating, the fact that it's only tracking certain variables.
Right.
Maybe you're a pro at 9-ball on a 9-foot table, but then you suck playing 8-ball on a bar table, and there's no way to really measure that today, right?
Until you come along and say, hey, his 8-ball stats are pretty good.
Yes. It's like we have this other data point that maybe you didn't know about, but let's take a deeper look at Fargo.
I was in like deep brain mode when you were talking about that, but that's the one distinction I think that could really set you guys apart in terms of the 7-foot to 9-foot transition, because I know there's some fantastic 7-foot players, and I avoid the bar box like you wouldn't believe. I call it the match box, whatever you want to say it. I mean, I'm 7 foot tall, stood up anyway, so right. I feel like it's such a leveler. And people go, oh no, but you think the position's tighter and the table's smaller, so you have to be more accurate. It's all, to me, that's BS. The 9-foot is really where you're kind of like, you have the stroke, you have the ability. Even to the 10-foot, I think the game's going to evolve to a 10-foot table, quite honestly. It's going to try and separate that top 10%. But those are just about it.
And I also wonder how just experience plays into that rating as well. Like, a lot of matches are won by the greatest safety that could be really simple. You just lock the guy behind the ball, and if he can't hit it and you get ball in hand, like, that could be the greatest shot of the whole match. And it was very simple, right? And so I think experience is something else I'd love to try to measure somehow, like pattern play. And, if you give up a shot, like how many games do you lose in a row after that because of that one mistake? And how often can you capitalize on your opponent's mistakes? I mean, those are things outside of just, shooting balls in the hole that play a huge role in just your overall skill level and ability.
It makes me wonder how far away we are from being able to boil down situations to specific risk percentages, just like they do in poker.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is that something that is feasible in the near future?
I think so. I mean, maybe even tying in the drill patterns and like the difficulty level of some of those drills and like how the balls are laid out. I mean, maybe you could somehow assign a percentage value to all those different types of shots and then compare that with the actual in-game real life match play.
Well, plus the training data. If people are using the training platform and getting a practice score, I'm so sorry, I just interrupted you there, Rude. If they're getting a practice score, if you're funneling all that practice data in, that could be the data point right there for you.
I think so. And I mean, now, like what I've seen with PlayKey and just like the video analysis, like being able to in real time look at all the angles and track the trajectory. I mean, there's so much that can be done there, being able to know exactly when they missed and like by how much and what angle. And then Nathan Rhodes, who invented the DigiQ, I don't know if you know him at all. We're working with him, and he's created this amazing new thing called the DigiBall. It's essentially like a smart cue ball that has gyros and sensors in the ball, so it can track spin and speed and like point of contact and all that kind of stuff. So now you combine, like, imagine this smart playing surface, and you've got a full set of smart balls and a camera that can see the table with computer vision. I mean, the sky is the limit of what you can do after that.
That sounds like a pretty much a dream for you, being able to capture all that and then be able to have all those little Lego blocks to build new features with.
Yeah, I mean, we're actually installing full systems in rooms now with like cameras and tablets and monitors on every single table, so that we can really capture like everything that's going on during an event. And I feel like that's a big differentiator. Like no one else, I think, has done that
right
to the level that we are. And, it's very hard and complicated, but the fact that you can now, almost like the bowling alley analogy, I go into the pool hall and everything's like pretty much automated. I mean, I can play a casual match and I can have it keep score and like live stream or record to watch later. I can play in a tournament and we can just command all the tables at once and like run a tournament. I mean, having like the whole room kind of digitally connected, I think opens up a lot of new doors as well.
If you could speak directly to people who might be hesitant to convert from paper to this digital system, after seeing how easy the onboarding flow is and setting up a tournament, what would you say to those people to kind of invite them to give this a try?
I would say, I mean, if you feel like you're spending a lot of your time at a tournament, hanging out the tournament desk, waiting for players to come up, report their scores, you got to find them in the bracket, write their name down, keep track of all the tables that are in use manually. Like, we try to streamline as much of that as possible and even automate it when we can. So it makes your life so much easier. And then you can actually go socialize with the players or even play in the tournament yourself, because you don't have to worry about hanging out at the tournament desk the whole time.
Yeah, I can't I can't emphasize it enough how true the tournament director having the free time to go interact with the players is. After just recently being at the Tiger Tour event, he stopped like 5 times and was just talking to me and Justin about how free he is, where he used to be just tied up the entire time, and it used to be the stressful thing, and now he literally just gets to walk around and focus on the players and make sure that everybody's having the best experience they possibly can. And his mind was just blown away by how he just instantly got all that time back by implementing the system. And so I think you really hit the nail on the head with the way that you capped that back.
Look what we just did there. I mean, that took what, just under 5 to 10 minutes, and obviously I haven't put all the players in just yet for a 32-man, but I can imagine that would be a fairly quick process if I knew exactly what their Fargo rate was, etc. But that's generated all that information for me, and obviously I can go back and upload a flyer to that as well, and then, like you say, I can generate a draw there from that. So I'll probably reach out and look to upgrade and use some of those additional features. But I think that's a really good. That's really intuitive, Isaac. And again, that's genuinely the first time that I've done that. I wanted to save it till we spoke. So
nice. Well, I'm glad you got through it and didn't have too many questions, and it's pretty straightforward. I mean, there's always room to improve. So, any feedback you or anyone else has, we'd love to hear it. And that's basically how it's gotten to this point. It's just everyone using it, giving us feedback, being like, hey, what about this or that, or this doesn't work so good, or I wish it did this. And really, that's what we love to hear from everybody.
Yeah, I love the fact that it's kind of saving in that, I can go back to my tournaments at any time. I can look at the bracket, if I want to look at, set up the bracket from there.
Yep. It saves all of your tournaments you've ever ran, and you can go back and look at them. And we have a tour feature we're working on now. So if you do run a tour, you can basically stitch many tournaments together, and you have a ranking system with points or however you want to set it up, and it'll calculate all your standings. And I don't know if you know Chris Santana, he's a good friend of ours. He's out in California, and he's got basically 6 tournament directors running weekly tournaments, all feeding into this thing. And he's built a Mez 9-ball tour, and he runs a couple monthlies. And so basically he's got almost 100 tournaments a year being ran. And he's not the one running them all either. He's got other people, but he's created this whole tour that's very easy for him to manage because most of it's automated.
Yeah, it's incredible. From a user feedback, mate, your phone's going to be blowing up because I'm going to be sending you stuff back and forth.
Good. Can't wait. Shout out to our friend Bo Powers. He sent us so many feedback, and he's definitely a pioneer as far as just an individual kind of building out his own room and installing cameras and tablets at every table, and he really cares. So if you can be like him and send us all kinds of feedback, that'd be great.
Yeah, he already he was asking me, we already did a feature on the New York Q Club, and he's already reached out to me and basically asking question after question. I said, you just have to watch the episode, man. Everything you're asking me is in the episode, all right?
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, he loves pool, and he loves the technology aspect, and he's got lots of great ideas.
Well, that's a perfect place for us to plug anybody that's watching. If you want to give some feedback to Isaac, if you want to share some feedback directly with Digital Pool, make sure you share it down in the comments below. We're obviously going to go back and fish out some feedback from everybody's engagement. So if you have anything you want to let Digital Pool know, leave it in the comments. Now, if they're an industry leader and they want to reach out to you for a more collaborative conversation to be able to start that, where should they reach out to you?
They can email me directly at isaac@digitalpool.com, ISAAC. Or you can go on Facebook. You can message us on there. I'd say that those would be the 2 easiest places to reach out. And we'd love to hear from you. We've got a lot of cool things on the horizon, a mobile app. We built a whole advertising network. We've got 10 pool rooms online throughout the United States, 100 tables with advertising capability. We've got do-it-yourself systems if you want to install tablets. We're doing tons of stuff with live streaming now. We're working on a prototype to stream from your own device with a scoreboard, wherever you want. So I feel like we're branching out into many areas, and we love everyone's feedback.
You just made so many people so happy with that one.
Please
right there.
Keep this one. Yeah, that's the one that I'm really excited for. Someone that streams a lot of my own content and being able to kind of, play and record and update the score pretty easy. Just even maybe using a little remote app as well would be fantastic.
Yep. It's on the roadmap. It's coming. We're working on it.
So that was kind of our last question, Isaac, was to say, what's next for Digital Pool, other than what you've just mentioned? what's the next exciting chapter, I guess, in the next 3 months?
Yeah, I mean, we've got like a great team of sort of volunteer contributors helping us that are also pool lovers, and so it's been great to have some help, and that's allowed us to branch out. We're building a 2.0 version of Digital Pool. We're rebuilding our whole league software. We're rebuilding our whole bracket system to be like 10 times faster, and the mobile app, the rooms that we're building out, all these partnerships that I mentioned earlier with like poolbuilders.co and PlayKey. So I feel like there's tons of stuff on the horizon. And, I really feel like there's a big opportunity right now. Pool seems to be resurging across the world, not just the US. There's tons of events happening. There's new leagues like the Ultimate Pool League. It's getting a lot of buzz right now. So that's amazing to see. And it gives me a lot of motivation and hope that, that this could be as big of a whole, sport as any other pro sport. So, maybe it could go to the Olympics. I don't know. I don't even know if like we need to hit that milestone anymore for it to be a success. I mean, I don't know if esports is in the Olympics yet, but they're booming. Like they're probably bigger than NFL and NBA combined, right? So why can't pool grow to that same level?
I love it.
Where do you see the future of pool, and why do you think the changes come about now? Why has so much investment gone into pool in the industry?
Ironically, I kind of feel like the digital age that we're in has made people realize how much they appreciate sort of social interaction and kind of being involved with activities outside of a screen, or being surrounded by, music and just images flashing in your face all the time. And like where we work, we're often on computers, or we're dealing with some kind of digital thing. And it seems kind of contradictory to what we're doing here to say that, but I feel like that's maybe one of the things that's fueling the growth of pool is people they discover this game and they're like, wow, it's so elegant and it's almost like moving chess, and it takes a long time to master, and it's different than any other sport, but it's also similar to other sports in a lot of ways. And it's something I can play with my friends. I can play with myself. I can play indoors, maybe even outdoors. I can play it till I'm 90 years old. There's so much to love about it, and all kinds of different games. And so I feel like people are realizing that, and they kind of want to break from a lot of the, technology and everything. And, it is contradictory to what we're doing, but I feel like, we're bringing a little bit of that into that world to help make the game more fun and exciting, and allow them more time to play the game that they love. And if they can, appreciate all the technology that's going into it to automate a lot of the stuff, all the toil and all the pain, so you can just focus on the game, then you really can, invest the time that you would want to, and you don't have to, be distracted by like, waiting around for 8 hours just to get your match called. Like, and you can be there on time. And so, yeah, I kind of feel like that's some of the stuff fueling it. I mean, the stuff, Matchroom, like they're doing a lot to elevate the game to the mass public, just through like the quality of production and like the prize pools that they're putting out there. They're attracting a lot more players. And really, I think like if we can get to a point where there's a viable path for anyone to become a pro and make a real living at it, then it's just going to explode, because that's just like any other pro sport. You've now got a path to this pro level, and we're all sort of competitive internally, and if we're going to get involved in sport and put significant time into it, like we got to know that there's this upper echelon that we could get to if we tried just hard enough, right?
You really hit the nail on the head there, and I think that's exactly what the game needs, is to create like a feeder pool of players that could now go and qualify for the World 9-Ball Tour and have a career and have an opportunity to earn hundreds of thousands of dollars, and actually, like you said, put a career into it. And this is what the juniors, I think, have really caught on to. And they've said, hey, I can still go to school. I'm a big proponent of education, but hey, once I finish my secondary education, or, my extracurricular activity, hey, I can now focus on pool. And this is actually a great career for me. One of our juniors with Hsunami, Kennedy Mayman, their team now has just become a league operator for Ultimate Pool up there in, I think it's Wisconsin, is it? But they're, that's what the game's fueling. It's giving them an opportunity for a career, an opportunity to make money, start your own business, but also be, a very well recognized player. So, this is all fantastic things to hear. So thanks so much for answering that.
Definitely. Yeah. Great question. And I think the future is very bright. So I'm glad you guys are in it. We're all in it together. And let's keep pushing forward. And I'm excited to see what other companies you interview. There's a lot of really good ones like coming up, and I'm happy to make some introductions. And if you want, like poolbilliards.co, certainly, Play Key, I think they'd be great. But yeah, there's a few that are like grabbing our attention. We're like, yeah, we got to work with these guys because they're doing some cool stuff too.
That's where we want to be. Again, I didn't want to mention the affiliation there with Upstate Al and Zach. I mean, how big a part of your team are they, or is it a separate function under the digital pool umbrella? That's kind of a question I did want to ask.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I mean, I met Zach 2 years ago at the International Open in Norfolk, Virginia, and he was involved with AccuStats for a long time, and he had built his own kind of platform for live streaming and installing cameras in rooms. And so we kind of hit it off that way. He's just, a geek like me, and really a brilliant kind of engineer, and we complement each other in different ways. He's more hands-on, hardware focused. I'm more software focused. So we actually decided to kind of merge our companies together, and that's how we came together. So we're basically business partners at this point.
Okay.
Upstate Al, I mean, he's been a staple in the live streaming world for a long time, probably way longer than I've been in pool. And so he's got, lots of connections. He goes around the country. He introduced us to a lot of other tournament directors, helped us get into running like the Super Billiards Expo and, some other really big events, Turning Stone, things like that. So that's how we formed a relationship. And so now him and Zach kind of go around the country, and Al helps him install rooms, and then they go run events, and basically they're on the road like 300 days a year, and I could never possibly do that. So for me, it's like a perfect sort of collaboration and partnership to make all this work.
Man, do they put the miles in? I tell you, I'm a big fan of Upstate Al, and I've known Zach since about 2012 as well. So, hearing that the collab was happening and that you guys are working together was a huge kind of plus for me. And I'm glad that it's being done. You've mentioned yourself that there's so much out there, but you need to put in the FaceTime. And I think they're the people that are putting it in with the room owners. And you mentioned there you had 10 rooms online?
10 rooms online, yeah. Well, our recent one was Borderline Billiards in Bristol, Tennessee. Great room, Janet Atwell, WPVA Pro. Really went to all ends to make like the perfect pool room, and I think she's done it. And so we were lucky enough to be able to kind of work with her to outfit the whole room with our full system and digital bracket walls and like everything you can imagine. We put it in there.
That's fantastic. So that can that be managed remotely, or does it need someone in the room to kind of just run it, turn it on and let it run?
No, it can be managed fully remotely. I mean, we have a schedule to turn off all the monitors when the business is outside of business hours, so it's not wasting electricity. We can start up tournaments remotely. It can take over all the screens. We can have ad rolls running with static ads or video 24/7. Bracket wall can come up immediately with the current tournament. Players can, live score, and they can do casual mode. They can walk up, even if there's no tournament, they can walk up to any table and say, I want to play 9-ball with my friend, and put in their names, and then it can actually record the match, and they can go later and watch their video. So
this makes me want to open my own pool. You reckon that's the next thing we'll do, Josh? We'll just open our own pool at this point.
It seems like it's in the deck of cards at this point.
Heck yeah, you guys should.
Yeah, tell me about the investment in the junior game from digital pool side. Is that something that you'd like to give back to the sport and make sure that we've got future generations coming through to the professional level?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, we've had great relationships with like Raw Hanna. He's done an amazing job with his junior program, the Predator Junior Amateur Series now. I mean, we worked with Trina Wolford. There's, she's one of his tournament directors, but she's been very instrumental in like the junior program. I mean, we're working with the BEF. We've helped run some of the junior events in Vegas with like Shane Tyree and Oscar and Desiree Dominguez. So I feel like we're definitely involved in the junior community, and we sponsor a few junior players. We sponsor Savannah Easton. She's amazing. Sam Henderson, who's now going to travel to the World Championships for his first time competing in that event. And there's just so much talent in the junior arena. And I feel like, Raw Hanna and people like him have really provided a great environment for them to compete at a high level, like amongst themselves, and like really improve their skill in a short period of time. And now they're able to go compete and be sponsored by Predator and all these other big names. And, they're still like teens and, 12 years old. And like, you're just amazed at how like adult like they are and how professional they act and, how well they play. And I feel like the future is definitely bright.
I absolutely love that. And you mentioned Savannah Easton there, and we're doing a segment called Tip Talk, which is going to basically focus on that younger generation,
Nice.
the kind of junior generation, and, get a one-to-one interview. So perhaps that's something you might be able to set us up with Savannah and,
Oh yeah, I'd be happy to introduce you to her, and her parents are great. And yeah, I'm sure she would love to come on and talk with you guys.
You mentioned some of your branding partners there, or some of like the sponsors that you work with through Digital Pool. I'm going to do a shameless plug for Hsunami.
Yes.
How did that come about?
Oh man, well, so I played pool, but I also was into collecting cues for a long time, and I still do. But I was a big collector of like Southwest cues and Black Boar cues, and I basically got put in touch with Hsunami through like a mutual friend of ours here in Dallas, and just reached out and was like, hey, I heard that you make some pretty amazing like shafts, and I'd love to try one. I've never tried like a keelwood shaft before. And so he was nice enough to build one for me, and that was like the 1.0 version. And I was like, wow, this material's really nice, has really good feedback, and has like a wood feel, like crisp feedback, but almost like low deflection, like carbon fiber might give you, right? And so I think I was hooked at that point. And then I ordered a few more, and then he came out with like the 2.0, and then I ordered a few more. And so I don't know, I probably have like 8 of his shafts in total, I guess, for different cues and pins and everything. And that's the only thing I play with. And so after that, I was like, hey, do you want to do like a collaboration sometime? And so he's like, oh, sure. And we had been making some apparel and stuff. And I was like, oh, maybe we can help each other out, and I can, funnel people to you with like shaft orders, and maybe you can plug the Digital Pool and like some of the apparel and stuff, and put like a little order form on there. And so that's what we did, and it worked out pretty well. And that's kind of how our relationship formed.
That's what I'm absolutely loving. Small businesses and startups helping each other out. Richard's been making cues for over 20 years, but really hit the nail on the head, like you mentioned, when he started developing the Hsunami cue. And I love these little collaborations that happen within the industry. They're really pushing and spurring each other on. And again, I doubt money's exchanged hands either way, but you guys are just promoting, with the shirts and everything like that. What's your current setup that you have? Playing cue, jump cue, break cue.
I play with the Southwest playing cue, Hsunami shaft. I play with a BK Rush break cue and a Air Rush jump cue.
Oh, Predator file, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, I got to say, they make it very easy to make a lot of balls on the break and jump over balls very easily. So that's why.
Say what you will about Predator, their break cue and their jump cue is one of the best out there. I can't argue that. There's a lot going on with a particular company, but I can tell you're a purist just purely by that Southwest cue.
Yes.
Those aren't easy to get your hands on. How do you have more than one?
Oh yeah. I mean, I probably have 10 right now, I guess. But at one point, at the peak, I had maybe 50 in my hands at one time, and then sold them all off. And actually, a lot of that went to funding Digital Pool, to be honest.
Yeah, they're a very popular cue. I'm sure. Oscar Dominguez, if you're listening, I guarantee you probably got a couple of his as well.
Yeah, Oscar's a cue connoisseur. He plays with lots of cues. I know he's got a couple of Southwests, and I know he likes them too. But at the end of the day, you got to pay what people are going to pay with, right? So
it is. I mean, I know we're getting off topic a little, but you you've seen the development of the maple shaft, through to the laminated shaft, through to now the keel wood and the carbon. What do you think's kind of propelled that, and what do you think the most popular shaft is right now?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we all played with maple for so long because that's all that there was. And then carbon came out and like took the world by storm. And it was like, wow, we finally melded like engineering and space age materials with cool equipment. Like, how could it get any better, right? And then everybody had a carbon shaft. And then after a while, they're like, wow, I kind of like lost all the feedback and feel that I had with the wood shaft. So I'm going to go back to my maple shaft. And then the keelwood came along and they're like, hey, hold my beer. I'm going to merge both of these together into one thing. And so now you got, Richard over here building 400 Hsunami shafts a week. And so I would argue that the Hsunami shafts are probably slowly taking over the planet. But I feel like it's probably mixed, like probably divided between carbon and maple, depending on who you ask. It comes down to feel at the end of the day. All the pros have now tried carbon. A lot of them went back to maple because they're like, I just like the feel and the feedback better. And now they're even combining carbon with maple, like carbon inserts and even maple inserts inside of carbon, which kind of blew my mind. So they're trying all sorts of stuff. Who knows what they'll come up with next? But at the end of the day, it's like what feels good to the player, and it's all subjective.
100%. Yeah, so that's a very, very good detailed answer. And I just want to be the first to say thank you so much, Isaac, for your insight. Thank you for creating Digital Pool. Thank you to BSN for taking Talkin English under their umbrella, and for giving us a platform to talk all things pool. And you can see just how passionate you are about the game, and I absolutely love that. So thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Del. Thank you, Josh. You guys are doing great things, and look forward to seeing more. And yeah, anytime you want to reach out or anything, let me know. I'll be happy to help you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Congratulations on making it to the end of episode 2 of Talking English. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to tune in next time where we sit down with Kennedy Mayman.
Kennedy, welcome to New York.